What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, and I'm here for the news. And in Henrietta, Oklahoma, there was a man by the name of Jesse McFadden who was found dead of apparent suicide after killing his entire family and two other teenage girls who were spending the night with his stepdaughter. Now, this is another mass killing after the other mass killing that just happened recently. And these mass killings just keep on happening. Like I said before, not every mass killing is orchestrated. But one thing is apparent. There's a demonic spirit over this country. Nobody can deny that. Whether you believe in conspiracy theories or not, this country is circling the drain. And the energy that's in this country has become possessed with a demonic spirit. Now, this man was in jail from 2004 to I think it was like 2020 for sexual assault / rape. And while in jail in 2017, they actually caught this man sexting with a teenager and exchanging photos while in prison. How he was able to get out, who knows? When you're already a sex offender, that should have been a license for another 10 to 15 years, easily. Because that means you haven't learned your lesson. But after 2017, he still was able to get out in 2020. And they said the actual date of the apparent murder / suicide, he was actually due in court. But let's take a look at the clip.
With following breaking news, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office says their search for these two missing teens is over after a total of 7 bodies were found on the property of the man on the right, a convicted rapist near Henrietta. I'm Shay Rossi.
And I'm Sarah Whaley. A very tragic day with this news coming out just in the past hour. Let's go ahead and look down to our right here. Beautiful young ladies. 14-year-old Ivy Webster on the left. 16-year-old Brittany Brewer. They were at the center of that missing and endangered persons alert issued this morning.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to think what their families are going through right now. Now, they were last known to be with the rapist, Jesse McFadden, and his family. Fox 23 brought you live coverage of...
And this is why you don't let your children just spend the night at anybody's house all willy-nilly and allowing these things. And this is out in the rural area. And a lot of these things in these rural areas is a lot more common than what you might think. You have to be extremely aware of where your daughter is going and your son and whose house you letting them spend the night. Because you never know. There could be a monster literally in the room next door.
The news conference the sheriff held just about a half hour ago.
And we do have a team of reporters at the scene and in studio for you now. Let's start with Fox 23's crime and safety reporter Abigail Dye, who was at that news conference. Abby, what more have you learned?
Well, Sarah, this is not the update that we wanted to bring you at all. This is absolutely tragic, like you were saying, and 7 bodies found right here on this property, a very large property that the sheriff says Jesse McFadden, that convicted rapist, lives at. And he says that they've been searching all day and he can't yet identify the bodies. But of course, sadly, he did call off the search for those 2 teen girls. Now, McFadden was convicted of rape back in 2002. He was released from prison.
I said 2004. I'm sorry, it was 2002. But I think he didn't go to prison to 2004.
2020, and he was set to stand trial today for child porn charges. Now, he did not show up to his court date, and no one has heard from him or these girls since.
Well, they actually found him in the house too. He was part of the 7 that was found dead.
Yesterday, and the Milwaukee County Sheriff Eddie Bryce says that they've been here on this property searching all day, and of course, what they found shocks us and breaks our hearts.
Approximately at 1500 hours, we arrived out here with a search warrant. We've searched the property and we've located 7 bodies that we are in the process of trying to get the ME to be able to confirm identities of these individuals that were found. We're not going to discuss any of the facts of the case or anything like that, but we are no longer looking we believe to have found everything that we were seeking this morning.
Very, very tragic. Now, of course, like the sheriff said, he wasn't releasing a lot of details. He didn't say if there was any trauma. They have no cause of death. And we're staying out here to make sure to gather information for you as this investigation moves forward. Live covering news that matters, I'm Abigail Dye, Fox 23 News.
We are covering all angles of this story for you tonight.
Let's go live now to Fox 23's Michelle White. She's been at the scene all day long. Michelle, you've also been talking to Ivy Webster's mom.
Jane, Sarah, yes, I have. This is the house where Jesse McFadden lived with his wife Holly and his 3 children before that news conference, where law enforcement did confirm they found 7 bodies. I spoke with Ivy Webster's mother, and she said police did confirm to her that both her daughter and her daughter's friend and the entire McFadden family are all dead. You're looking at pictures of 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany Brewer, 2 friends who left on Saturday morning to go out with another friend, Tiffany, who is the stepdaughter of Jesse McFadden. When the parents of the teens hadn't heard from them since Sunday morning, they called local.
And in a lot of these rural areas, there's a lot of methamphetamine use too. You know, they're not going to talk about that during this case, obviously, as well they shouldn't, but there's a lot of drug use out in these rural areas now. But like, you know, back in the day in the 80s, there was still a lot of jobs and stuff out in these areas. Like, it ain't like it used to be in these rural areas. The rural part of America is kind of dying. And the amount of meth use, fentanyl use, trank, all of the new zombie drug, all this shit is starting to take over. And as you can see, some of these people, you can tell that they've dibbled and dabbled in, you know, a little bit of some of these drugs. I'm not saying all, but most definitely some. And one thing I learned about methamphetamines, it's a drug that's used an extreme amount in the homosexual community. It's a huge drug in the homosexual community. It takes away all of your inhibitions, and you don't feel no guilt in the moment. You know what I mean? When you're doing all these crazy sex acts, you tend to feel kind of guilty. Yeah, like you'll feel something. When they use that meth, they say they take that away. How do I know that? Because I did a video on meth and pedophilia, and it was amazing some of the stuff that I learned in that documentary and that I learned throughout making that video. It was shocking.
Law enforcement. Ivy told her mom she was spending the night with her friends, Brewer and Tiffany, at the McFadden's house here. And the friends were planning to go to McFadden's ranch in McAllister. But the Okmulgee sheriff says they never arrived. Webster received a text from Ivy on Sunday morning, but she says she isn't sure now that that text came from her daughter. Okmulgee County Sheriff Eddie Rice says multiple agencies were working to find the teens and that the cell phones did not ping to any towers. Earlier today, McFadden's car turned up parked across the street from the property. And around 3:45, Webster's mother told me she got the news that McFadden had reportedly killed Ivy, Brittany, his 3 children, his wife, and himself. Sheriff Eddie Rice did not confirm that until the press conference, but they are still waiting for the results of the ME's office.
We Snapchatted that night because that's what me and her do. Then Sunday morning I got a message saying that she was going to McAllister to do the fence and that they should be home by 5. And I asked her if she could get home earlier if she could. She said, yeah, she'll try.
OSBI is leading this investigation from this point forward, and we will bring you more details as soon as we get them. Live in Henrietta, covering news that matters. Michelle White, Fox 23 News.
Just so heartbreaking. Fox 23 investigative reporter Jana Clark continues our coverage now here in the studio.
Yeah, Jana, Abigail mentioned a little bit about Jesse McFadden's past, but as the investigative reporter, of course, you are digging deeper.
Yes, and McFadden does have a criminal past. Here are just a few of the things that I have found so far in the past hour. In 2004, he went to prison for rape in Pittsburgh County. He was released from prison in 2020 after serving about 16 years of his 20-year sentence.
And for you to go to jail for 16 years for a rape, it had to have been a pretty heinous act. That's a long bid. That's basically mean he probably got about 30 years. He probably got like 27 years. He got a lot of time because he did 16. And while he was in prison, he was accused of sexting a girl, underage girl from prison. There's no way they should have let him out. He should have been in jail at least to 2030. But, I don't think it mattered when he got out. Whenever he got out, he was going to get back to the same thing he was doing before. He has a demonic spirit on him. He probably grew up in an abusive, sexually demonic household. And, people like that tend to pass that on, man. It's just, it's terrible and it's disgusting. And he should have never been let out of prison, period, point blank.
But while he was still in prison for rape, he was actually accused of sexting behind bars with a teenage girl. Court records say he used a cell phone in prison to exchange nude photos and videos with that girl. McFadden is also a lifetime registered sex offender. And get this, he was actually supposed to go to court today.
And let me say this. Think about that. Those parents let their teenage daughter, 14 and 15, spend the night at the house of a registered sex offender. That sounds just unbelievable. And not only was he a registered sex offender, before he even got out of prison, he was already back at it. First chance he got when he got that cell phone. Unbelievable.
Were 2 counts about that sexting behind bars with the underage girl. Covering News That Matters, Jan Clark, Fox 23 News.
Jana, thanks. All of our reporters are digging deeper into every angle of this investigation right now.
Yeah, it is such a tragic situation. You heard Ivy Webster's mom. We'll continue to bring you live updates throughout these next 2 hours of news and on the Fox 23 News app.
But like I said before, you guys, I did make a video over a year ago, white people's meth and pedophilia problem. And the reason why I made that video, not because I think white people are the only people with problems. The Negro has a bunch of problems. Mexico has problems with the cartel. Every group, whether it's in China, North and South Korea, it doesn't matter. Russia and Ukraine, every country has its own issues and problems that it needs to resolve. But white people are not on no pedestal. They have problems too. And pedophilia is most definitely one of them. That doesn't mean every white man is a pedophile. Absolutely not. But what I am saying, within their race, this has become extremely prevalent. And it's something that I don't know how they're going to handle that or nip it in the bud. But I would say if you had death penalty for pedophiles, longer life sentences, that would cut a lot of this stuff out. But you'd be surprised, some of these judges, some of these same judges who are over some of these cases, privately, they're into some of the same things. Allegedly. But I'm Samuel Koppel. This has been Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm here for the news. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. Jesse McFadden should have never been let out of prison. Ride. Peace.